Hey, everyone.
There, it says live. Woo!
Yeah, we're live. It's Rhonda Elliott from Cerulean War, Cerulean Forest Healing, Teresa Warren from Claim Your Akashic Inheritance, and Bex Marie from Divinely Guided. Oh, Divinely Guided.
Inspirations.
Bex Marie. I'm sorry, Bex.
That's okay.
And we're the Spirit Sessions ladies. And we're
Woohoo.
coming to you with our season 3, episode 3. And we're waiting with bated breath for our guest to come on. She will be here in just a second. She's just coming in. So here we are. We are simulcasting on our.
There she is.
So we've got
Hi.
Megan doing mindful parenting. And why are we doing mindful parenting on the Spirit Sessions show? Well, light workers, we need to support everyone. And the best way to make a better world is to make better children. And the best way to make better children is to be better parents. And Megan, who is a young person, can tell us how we can be better parents. Straight from the horse's mouth, things she's learned along the way, and things that it's a different world out. It's a different world out there than when we were there. It's a different world out there from when our parents were out there. And we can all attest that our parents didn't know everything. And so we know we don't know everything. And I'm sure as grandparents we'll be much better. But we'd just like you to share this out and please like our page and follow it. Take some time and give us a content and let us know where you are from.
If you're watching on YouTube,
if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook, let us know because we're trying to multitask, and today I'm not good at it. But Teresa, can you introduce our guest today? Thanks.
Okay, I did not prepare. Let me go look up. Okay, first of all, Megan is the daughter of one of the students that when we all met through Emily Harrison at the Akashic Academy. Her mother, Courtney, was one of the students with us. And so we've been excited listening to all the things that Courtney's been doing. It's like the mother's all excited. Courtney has a book out and Courtney has this. And so we've been following you, actually, Courtney. Megan, we've been following you for a long time through your mother. And it's exciting. So Megan is neat because she's only 24 years old. She's a 2-time TEDx speaker, or how do you say that? TED speaker. And
Yes.
Which is exciting because the things that she teaches about the mental health and the anxiety, and anxiety is so rampant among the children. And I have a high school student myself. I know the anxiety. And I'm out here and I get advice on it because, heck, I went to be a life coach. I learned everything. What I have to say doesn't matter at this point to this one. But we got Megan out there. Megan can teach the people and she could teach everyone. And so she helps those who struggle with the anticipatory anxiety, with body issues, low self-esteem. I mean, where were you when I was a teenager? You know, I needed you too. And so she's been an inspiration for so many. She turned her own pain into something that helps so many. And she goes to schools across America and she's been on TV and everything. And so we welcome you. Come on in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, Megan. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's an honor to sit here and like I said, we've been watching you for a while, and just to imagine the scope of what you're doing and the help that you're bringing. I could see that you would even help with the school out here because so many people ignore the anxiety. Oh, you just got to tough it out and go out there and go to school anyway, or go deal with those teachers or those bullies or whatever. But there's more to it than that. Can you tell us how your journey started?
So for me, I always, just as young as I can remember being 5 years old, I was always the child that was anxious, crying, extra nervous. I just wanted to be with my mom. Even before I could talk or walk, I was always just displaying a lot of maybe tantrums isn't the best word, but a lot of just kind of freak outs and just always just so upset. And as I got older, my anxiety really manifested itself in worrying about things that hadn't happened yet. So maybe in 5th grade, I was being invited to a sleepover, or I had a class field trip that day. And even as long as 2 months before the actual event, my mind would start assuming, I'm going to get sick. Something awful is going to happen. I'm not going to do well. I'm like, it was always these worst case scenarios of I'm going to fail. I'm going to embarrass myself in front of everyone. It's just going to be this like worst possible thing that's going to happen. But obviously, nothing in my 24 years of life has ever really happened that was a worst case scenario, of course. And then as I got to 8th grade, I remember the summer after I promoted from middle school to high school, I remember feeling so triggered, and because a lot of my friends were going to a different high school, and at my high school it was a public school, so in the freshman class it was about 800 kids. That's so many. And I just remember feeling so like I couldn't even just sit for a meal without biting my nails or feeling hot and sweaty and wanting to just like, Mom, I can't breathe. I feel like there's an elephant sitting on my chest. Something, I'm gonna die. It was just always, the panic attack symptoms. And I just always remember being so extra sensitive, and I always felt like I wanted someone to talk to and to listen to me. And so when I started high school, it was, obviously it's a lot of change. It's a whole new school, and you feel like you're being prepped to be pushed off, into the real world. And I'm like, am I ready? I don't want to do this. This isn't fun. Once again, something awful is gonna happen. And it was just so scary. And so I remember I vocalized to my parents this summer going into high school how I was feeling, and my parents had always been very aware and present and proactive parents, so they always knew, Megan's a sensitive child. She they knew what was going on, but they didn't say anything. And then when I turned 14 in my freshman year, I was having physics in class, and my mind started anticipating, it's 11 a.m., it's English class again. My mind started, thinking, oh, I'm going to feel just how I did yesterday. And then I just slowly got in this really negative cycle. And I just felt like my mind wasn't even mine anymore. And it just started going on autopilot where, oh, it's this class. It's 4 p.m. now. I'm with this person. So I'm going to feel exactly how I've been feeling, which was really challenging. And for me, I wasn't really educated on what anxiety or depression or panic attacks or low self-esteem, what they actually are, and the signs and the symptoms. And so I just was kind of walking around just like a ball of emotions throughout class, and I did not know what was going on. And then I remember one night after dinner, my freshman year, I was 14. I sat my parents down and I said, Mom and Dad, can I talk to you guys without Catherine here, my sister? And they said yes. And then I just vented to them, and I felt so embarrassed, just all these emotions. And just for an hour, I was explaining, and I knew that something was off and that I needed extra help, or at least to tell my parents, because I trusted them, and it was affecting my grades and my eating habits. And I felt I could not handle this on my own. And I thought that these episodes, it can feel like you're having a heart attack, and it's scary that you can feel like you're literally dying. And so I wanted to tell them, and then I did. And that was honestly the best thing that I ever did, because my mom immediately looked at my dad and she was like, honey, you can take it over from here. You know what's going on with Megan, don't you? And then he looked at me and said, Megan, let's go for a walk on our trail. We lived by this walking trail. And so me and my dad were just walking, and he's like, no, Megan, what you're feeling, it's how I felt when I was your age. And this felt so cheesy, out of a movie, you know, a father and daughter and his teenager just on a little walk. And he said, you know, Megan, this is called anticipatory anxiety, and it runs on my side of the family, and you're feeling, it's normal, it's real, it's I'm validating it. It's nothing to be scared of, to be embarrassed of. It's fully real. And we're going to get you help, and we're going to put you in therapy, and it's going to be amazing. And we're always here for you. Never feel like you have to keep something from us, or just let it all out and say everything that you're feeling, because we get it, and it's not crazy or something we've never heard of. So that was, you know, kind of the beginning of my journey into really searching within and getting to the root of my triggers, and why I had such a fear of change, and why I had these thoughts. And just I did a lot of hypnotherapy. I loved it. I did a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and I did a lot of EFT tapping, which I love. And it changed my life. It really, and genuinely, the main inspiration for why I am doing what I'm doing is because as I was healing throughout my whole entire high school career, I noticed every assembly or workshop we had at my school, nothing was ever talked about with mental health or self-care or how to love your body or how to connect to your body, how to heal, how to meditate. And I always, you know, after every assembly or a person would come in and give us a talk, I always felt kind of bummed, where I was like, well, why didn't they talk about how I'm feeling? So then I guess I'm the only one going through it, because nothing about it. My friend group, no one at school, no teachers are kind of having a mental health awareness month, or they're not changing, you know, sex ed and PE. It's been around, it has not changed since like the 1950s. And I felt such, why is this not here? And I felt so frustrated, because I think it can change people's lives. And in my own high school, we had many people who sadly, you know, committed suicide, or I had kids in my high school who died, and it was just so surreal. And I always felt, why aren't they having an open, honest conversation about really what is going on and how to prepare for the real world? Because I'm sorry, but learning about the bubonic plague from the 1700s is not as important as learning about, you know, self-care and connecting to your higher self and following your passions.
Exactly. So true.
Exactly. Oh. So glad that you're filling that spot, though. I mean, from growing and learning all that to where you were able to.
Yep, she is. That's my fault. Sorry.
So how are you able to make that jump to where you're now finally helping the others now? And what's that like? You know, that's got to be so exciting.
It is. I mean, there's no way that I can explain it. It's just so full circle, and it's so priceless, the feeling of, you know, being able to go into middle schools and high schools and have those conversations that I just was so afraid to ask and too embarrassed to ask for. But now I'm kind of the one going in where I know what teenagers need and want to hear, but a lot of them don't speak up, or they don't think that, oh, you know, no one's talking about it, so I guess I'll be fine. Maybe when I'm 25, I'll get therapy, or I'll do this. But I really am just so passionate about giving teenagers exactly what I know that they need and what they all are feeling. But a lot of them feel that, oh, well, that girl's so pretty, or she drives that kind of car, so there's no way that she's on the varsity sports teams. There's no way she could ever feel not great about her body or insecure or having anxiety or depression or worried about her future. But at the end of the day, I like to remind teenagers, we all are human beings, all experiencing the same thing, maybe in different forms, in different ways, and it happens at different ages of our life, but we all, at the end of the day, feel the same way and have all the same wants and needs. And I just like to just be very honest, because I think it can affect teenagers so much when they feel like they don't have a safe place to just talk about. They don't have to perform or be on or get an A+, and we can just have a genuine conversation. I think that's important, just like almost an escape from their parents if they feel like they're growing up in a household where it's super academically, you have to get these kind of grades and go to this college because everyone in our family went to this college, and if you don't follow the tradition, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think society can put a lot of pressure on teenagers to have it all together, when in reality, I know people who are, 75. And I mean, what does having it together even really mean? I think it's more important to set up young adults and teens to follow their passions and to know how to kind of just be aware when they feel that their mood they're in a weird mood, or something feels off, or they're not fully happy. I think that is more important.
So we talk about mindful parenting, and I guess it's something that you're teaching parents too, right? It's to be aware, like it's to start looking at your teenager as a person and not a projection of what you want it to be in the world, more or less, right? Because a lot of parents go, well, I want her to do this. I want him to do that. I want them to be what I wasn't. And I want to give them all those things so they can have all that stuff that I wanted and couldn't have. But that's the pressure. So if you were to be my child, or you were to be my parent, what would you tell me going to school if I was starting to show signs of anxiety and starting to withdraw, or starting to, what would you tell a parent to look for? Can you give us some really simple signs that really are like parents should be on the like on the watch for? There are a few, ones that may stand out for somebody.
Yeah, I didn't really hear what you were saying. It was kind of breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I just said, what would you say, Megan, what would you tell parents to look out for, to have them check and see what their children are looking for? What would you say that the main signs are for a parent to look for? Because, kids are really good at hiding things. And when they come in the day and you say, how was your day? Fine. And then they go off to their room. So how do you suggest that parents address the issue of anxiety, and maybe even get more detailed, look for the signs of it in their own child?
Yes, that's a great question. So if I heard you correctly, you said, what are the signs that parents can look for if their teenager may need help?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I think number one would be, if you notice in your teenager, if you notice a personality change, and I think it can be kind of not a slippery slope, but kind of challenging, because naturally when your child hits 12, 11, 13, they already are going to go through some sort of a shift because of all of the hormones and just puberty. It naturally, for boys, your voice is going to change. For girls, it's just, you naturally are going to change a little bit, of course, but I think paying attention to the more serious side that could indicate that there's a problem or an issue where if you feel that your child, teenager, is always just super goofy and social and outgoing, and then maybe something happens. They go through a breakup or a friend change or friend drama, or they got a bad grade, or maybe they just nothing really happened, and you just start noticing they don't really go out on the weekends, or their grades are kind of slipping, or they start eating really junky food, or they start hanging around kind of a negative crowd of people, and they start just doing other things. I think really just being a proactive and present parent, and really just noticing when your teenager is like, could just be in a funk or a phase, but just really honoring that it is real, and it's always better to lead with to come at it, not being, kind of angry and, oh my God, doing that. I think can almost make them, drive them away. But I think coming at it from a place of compassion and understanding and patience. I think also when your teenager is just, I think it's just the signs of grades are slipping, their eating habits change. Are they getting a lot of sleep? Who are they hanging out with on the weekends? Who are they hanging out with at school? And are they participating in sports or music or theater or any school program? And just noticing when there's like a major shift, when you're like, oh my gosh, wait, I didn't know you dropped out of this and you're not taking this anymore, and like what happened. Also, I think, and this is something I've told, acne, a lot of like skin things. For me, I didn't have this as a teenager, and then I started very painful cystic acne, and I think a lot of teenagers do that, and it can affect their self-esteem so much, and it can cause depression and anxious thoughts and low self-esteem. And I've noticed that, and I think that's just all of the changes that can happen, but also all of the stress. When you be a junior in high school, you're prepping for college, and it's so much pressure because your grades really matter, and you're already starting to think about your future, and you're only 17, 18 years old, and you're already having to think about these huge life milestones and changes, and you always want to make sure that you're making the right choice, but there's so much pressure of if you don't know what you want to major in and where you want to go, that can change, and it's you much pressure. I remember exactly
Yes, there is.
how I felt not good about my body, and if that guy didn't text me back, I felt not pretty enough, and that girl, because she's the cheerleader, she's this, she drives this kind of car, her just this silly things. And when you're in high school, it feels like your whole world, don't know any different. But then when you're out of it, I feel like you can gain more perspective and realize what matters and what's more important to focus on, like doing well in school and making long-lasting friendships versus kind of the drama, the pace, the all that stuff. But I think, and for me personally, when I noticed I was having anxiety, I'm more of a vocal person. So I had to tell someone. I couldn't keep it inside. I just had to tell someone. So I think a lot of teenagers also can be more shy, or I think people cope with things in different ways. I think some people ask for help immediately because they just want it to be over and to get relief and to know how to kind of move on and move forward. And I think other people can kind of a little bit, and maybe they don't ask for help, and they're not vocal about their needs, and they just don't know conversation. So I think it's important to just be aware of your teens' communication style and meet them halfway. Just pay it. I think all moms, dads too, but I think all moms have just the intuition with their children, and they can just sense when off, and they can just kind of sense when their child's energy just, they don't know if something is weighing them down. And it's just, so if that guy didn't text you back, or he didn't ask you to the homecoming dance, or you didn't test the old.
Yeah, totally get that.
So, do you think it's important for parents, like a teenager? Yeah. Megan, you're going in and out. Have you got some earbuds you could stick on? I don't know. Kick your mom off the Wi-Fi or something. We're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh no.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So, can you stick in somebody maybe on your Wi-Fi? That's the all. So. You may just.
If I click out of Wi-Fi, will it like exit the video chat?
It might, but you can come back in. We're okay. You can come right back in. Just go ahead and come back in and hop in.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kira said, my experience, guidance counselors should have an open door with non-judgmental approach. Mixed emotions are sometimes hard to explain in words. That's so true. And sometimes guidance counselors are very hard to approach.
Yes.
But some are easy. I mean, they're supposed to be easy to approach, but some
and
aren't.
I wish teachers would get this, because they too add to the pressure so ruthlessly without even having any compassion. My daughter's a part of the LGBTQ community, and they had a teacher that actually would laugh at all of the gay jokes going on in the classroom, and that made my son feel so uncomfortable. And so she took it to the principal, who brought the teacher in, and they're having a discussion, and the teacher goes, oh, well, my cousin is gay, and this is how we joke in the family, so we thought it would be okay. And she's saying, no, what you've done is you've made me insecure in that class, and I know every one of the kids that are making the jokes. I can't trust them no more, and I can't trust your classroom anymore. So to me, not only as parents do we need to be concerned, but as people in the community, we need to help people with anxiety and these things that are going on.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean, huh, Bex? Those teachers, they push.
Yeah. It can be very challenging to deal with the school system and deal with guidance counselors who, aren't the most supportive. And, it's about bringing awareness to them about, not making your child feel bad because they need a little bit of extra attention that day. It's like when they spend time trying to guilt your child because they're having a rough day and they need to spend more time. Oh, good.
You're on the better Wi-Fi? Still got you froze.
Yes.
We'll see if you can come in. You can always leave the studio and come back in. That would probably work. That sometimes. There's a little red button below. And it says leave studio, and then you can just hit the link and come back in. You'll have probably refreshed your link, I believe, or just it's new.
Okay.
I know with my kids, like you had to be a detective sometimes, and what I found really helpful was to have at least a family meal once in a while, either a breakfast or a dinner where you can. Dinners were much better because teenagers in the morning, like they're just like, so, but you kind of have to, when they're younger, you kind of have to be a bit of a Nazi in that you have to make sure they go to bed, and, you make sure they're getting enough rest, and you're saying, hey, maybe you should go to bed. People in positions of authority should know better, but that doesn't mean they do know better. Just look at our government.
Yeah,
exactly.
We want to go there. But they have pressure. They're on the pressure side too. They're being pressured to get numbers out, like out into college, and kids, so they have better SATs or better whatever they have down there. Sorry, I don't know. Better grades, and so that teaches schools. Schools have a lot of pressure on them too, but
Yeah, it's
but
true.
they're in the business of helping
It's
us
a
raise our
business.
children.
They run it like a
It is a
business,
business. It is.
rather than the human aspect of helping
Right.
these children.
At the end of the day,
By the time Megan's done with all this, she'll have the schools all educated.
That'll be amazing. I mean, really, like my school that my kids go to is rated one of the best in the state. But when you try to get help because your child's having anxiety or depression or has ADHD or something like that, they put up blocks everywhere. They don't want to hear it unless you go through exactly what they want you to go through. So they don't give your child that attention until you are, unless they're officially diagnosed, unless they have all these things, all these markers that they need. And then they're like, okay, well, we'll do a little bit more. But then they're still not really paying attention to the child's needs, not in a way that the child feels safe and supported at school. And that's a problem.
Exactly right.
Exactly. They shouldn't be stressed about going to school and having to deal with that hostile environment every day.
Yes.
When your child is happy in the morning and they get to school and everything just falls apart for them every day, it's frustrating.
It's true.
Yes.
So Megan, you said you used hypnotherapy. Did you use any other kind of therapy that you found that was particularly good for your anxiety, or any kind of other supplements? Or I know you're probably not on any drugs because you've done it. Is it cognitive behavioral that you've worked with?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us sort of what you did to help your anxiety?
Yes. So I personally really, I'm really thankful that my mom found 2 great therapists, and they really, I clicked with them, loved their energy, and I felt very comfortable with them. And they were both women, and they're very smart and very, I think just really enjoying your therapist is number one. It's so smart. And number 2, I did cognitive behavioral therapy, which it's, fancy name, but it's basically just kind of the most basic form of talk therapy. I really personally loved hypnotherapy. I think that was very powerful for me to just get to the root of why I think the way that I do. And when this negative worst case scenario thinking really started in my childhood, and it's been very healing. And I didn't really take any supplements, though I do owe a lot of credit to my mom, Courtney, because from the day I was born, she's always fed me the most organic, healthy food, and she's always been very wise and smart with just being a parent. And so I didn't really grow up in a household where there was a lot of caffeine or Red Bulls or things that can trigger anxiety. I also had a great nighttime and morning routine. I loved just at about 7 p.m. when I was a teenager. I remember, my mom would come in and say, "Hey, Megan, okay, taking away your laptop and your phone." And it was just so helpful because I easily could have stayed up till 2 a.m. just randomly scrolling, not doing anything really productive. And I just loved waking up and kind of stretching and journaling. And I personally don't drink caffeine or alcohol or a lot of things, red meat, gluten, and mixture of it is for my acne, but also I know my triggers and what is going to make me feel really uncomfortable and really anxious. And so I'm just very aware of what's going to make me feel better versus worse. So I always try to set up my day for success. Even if I only have 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, I love to just really check in with myself. I love doing breath work classes and listening to binaural beats.
Oh yeah, I love those.
I've also, I love just guided meditations. I love, and I've also just become extremely spiritual because obviously my mother and people like you all, the ladies. I've just really been interested in the spiritual side of anxiety and why we feel the way that we do. And so I think, yeah, I think I owe a lot of credit to my mom for instilling always fill up your cup first and always just take care of yourself in any way that you can.
Mhm.
So you think routine's a really important thing for parents to establish for their children? And, and some people are always worried about being helicopter parents, but I don't think routine really qualifies as a helicopter parent, especially in the younger. I think if you start off routines and it ingrains, it becomes a habit in your teenager. So, one of the things we used to do with our kids was read to them every night. Well, actually, I used to get my husband to read to the kids every night.
Yeah, I love
But
that.
that was a good thing. And the kids would, that would chill them out. So there would be no screen times because we're going to get read to. And that helped in many ways for their schoolwork too. But the anxiety part, well, don't be afraid to talk to your kids. You said the best thing you found out was that you're not weird. Like this happens to a lot of people, right? Anxiety happens to most people.
Mhm.
And that just acknowledging that takes a big weight off your shoulders, right? Acknowledging that you have anxiety and that it's a normal sort of part of being a teenager helps, everyone. Rather than
Yes, and I think it's so important to, whether it's because of the family you grew up in or your religion or your beliefs on mental health and what it means to get help and seek treatment. I think that there are a lot of stigmas and kind of pre-existing beliefs on, oh, well, if you have depression, then that means XYZ. If you have anxiety, then that means XYZ. And if you take medication, then that means you are XYZ, which is so silly and so sad because I have so many people who, just looking at them, you would never guess that they take medication or have depression or that they're actively, seeing a therapist and getting to the root and actually working on it. And for me, my anxiety, I when I was a teenager, all I remember feeling is, okay, I'm afraid to tell my friend group or to strike an open conversation and kind of talk about what I'm going through that no one really knew at the time, because I was so afraid of them thinking that it's weird or that it's embarrassing or that they're going to stop inviting me to things because, it's like, what's going on with Megan? Why would she say she has that? That's weird. Or she's always, the goofy, super social. You wouldn't really think typically that someone having chronic anxiety and suffering would be the one that's like always, in the school plays and always wanting to participate and volunteer and really, really, really put herself out there. But it was, and I for sure used comedy and humor as a way to cope and kind of deflect my anxiety. And but I think there's so many stigmas and beliefs, and there's just so many people, including myself, where on the outside looking in, you wouldn't really think, okay, that stereotypically is, I'm going to assume that that's someone who is suffering with any mental health condition.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Megan, so much for being with us today. And we've put your links to your TED Talks, which is pretty incredible. A person of your age got TED Talks, and I think it's a very powerful TED Talk. If you haven't watched it, the links are in there. Watch it and get your teens to watch it. Maybe it's something you can watch as a family together, and it'll go like, hey, and the kids will say, hey, that was me, that's me. And it'll start conversations between parents and children, and they can get the help, even if it's just talking to your parents about what you're feeling is a big relief, as you found out. So anything, final thoughts you have for us on what parents can do to help, or tips you can give to the kids that are coming up through the systems now?
I would say how parents can help their teenager is just any amount of free time you have, maybe in the mornings, at nighttime, you're driving them to their practice, to if you have 5 minutes with them, just every single day, actively, phones away, just checking in with them, saying, hey, how was your day? Most often, every single time, something will come up, and I feel like your teenager will hint or say something that kind of could be, oh, well, that's interesting. Just always wanting to have that open, honest conversation, and really to let them know and understand that you're always there for them, and you are the present parent that really wants to connect to the child. I think also, if you're a parent, don't compare. If you have more than one child, don't compare them in any way. I think that's such a quick way to just kind of really put a dagger in your child's self-esteem. If you compare, oh, well, your grades aren't like, your big sister Sally's, or your grade, or why don't you join the varsity swim team like your brother John, or like, just don't do that comparing thing. I think also understand that if you are a parent, every child, if you have one child, 2 children, 3 children, 4, every single one was put on earth for a different reason, just as everyone in this whole world was. And understand that they all have their own natural abilities and talents that they have just within them. It comes natural. And just to be open-minded and to be understanding, and to really, I think maybe for some parents this can be challenging to just kind of just want what makes your child want for your child just to be happy. But thankfully my mom and my dad really nurture me and my sister's talents and what we love to do and what we're passionate about. So I really just urge parents to just really just pump up your own child about their passions. And if they love playing the piano or singing or dancing or knitting or designing, drawing cartoons, or whatever it is, cooking, baking, writing books, blogging, just really pump up them and boost their confidence, because it can be, I don't know, just be a loving, kind, open-minded parent. And it's just, one day I hope to be a parent myself, but my mom has done an incredible job, and I feel grateful that I grew up in a household where things were talked about really openly, and there was never any negative reaction or judgment. And I always felt like I could call up my mom or text her or talk to her, and I would receive love. I wouldn't receive judgment or hate or anger.
Awesome.
So cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And we hope to have you on again as you grow in your stardom. You've been all over the media, and we just love you, and follow you on Instagram. I love your Instagram. So I follow you on Instagram. You're really popular and really, really out there. So I love watching you on Instagram and how you've grown up over the past year. Just love it. So Bex, can you take us away?
Yeah, we just have the most important question, of course, which is, if you had to choose a song to be the theme song of your life, what would it be?
I would choose the song "Maniac" in the movie.
Oh yeah,
Flashdance.
That's right.
I actually listen to that song whenever I work out, and it always puts me in a good mood. I'll blast it around my room, and I'll jump around and feel like a literal maniac.
Woohoo.
And I just dancing also, that was a routine that I formed when I was 11 years old, and I didn't know why I felt the way I did, but every night before bed I would put on my headphones, and I knew that was such a go-to easy way to shift my mood and to just make me feel like, why am I so worried? Gosh, Megan. But I would always do that. And so I would say Maniac. Yes.
Love it. That's awesome. Yeah. And I could totally, dancing definitely helps shift everything. Gets that energy moving, right? I love that. That's great advice. All right. So if you share this episode, you can share it out on YouTube, you can share it on Facebook. You have the chance to win a reading with me, and we'll announce the winner next week. The person who shared out the most last week, who won a reading with Rhonda, is Krista Higginbotham. Congratulations, Krista. Rhonda will be getting in touch with you to schedule your reading. And we thank you guys so much for your support and your love. We do this because we get to hang out with you, and it's such an honor. So please keep sharing and keep showing up. And, this is just such an important topic for us right now. I have, two teenagers and a preteen. And, it's a different world than what we were exposed to.
Yes.
These kids really need as much support to be who they are and not just be what society pressures them to be. So I'm grateful that you're holding space for that and showing up, Megan, because this is really, it's so needed. Kids are suffering, and it's time for them to really be heard. So thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody who joined us. Comment below, and we'll catch up with you. Watch us on YouTube as well. So thanks very much, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a blessed week.
Namaste.
Thank you, guys.